Good evening to our Columbia community and welcome to our Columbia College Women virtual panel event, Innovators and Influencers, Women Driving Marketing Forward. You will hear from a panel of 3 alumnae marketing experts with a broad range of perspectives across the marketing industry. This session will offer valuable insights into the world of marketing, including strategies to land your first role, tips for standing out in a competitive job market, and an in-depth exploration of what a career in marketing truly entails. Whether you're a student, a professional considering a marketing career, or someone fascinated by understanding target demographics and sociological trends, this event will provide a unique opportunity to learn from seasoned professionals. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am Nancy Pack, Columbia College, class of 1990, and Columbia Business School class of 1995. I'm the president of Columbia College Women, and I will be your moderator this evening. Columbia College Women is the official alumnae organization for the college. The mission of Columbia College Women is to amplify the voices and leadership of women at Columbia College and across the university. We are committed to fostering a dynamic community that supports alumnae and students throughout their lives. Before we get started, please note, if you'd like to participate in the Q&A during tonight's discussion, please enter your question, including your graduating year, into the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. Your entry will only be visible to the facilitator. If your question is selected, we will ask your question on your behalf. Please submit questions at any time throughout the presentation. And for optimal viewing, please enter full screen mode. Without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists. Jacqueline Basulto, Columbia College, class of 2017, is the founder and CEO of SeedX, a digital marketing firm that helps clients achieve their business goals through data-driven strategies and creative solutions. In 2021, she was recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 as one of the top leaders in the marketing and advertising industries. Her company has also been honored by Clutch as a premier women-owned digital agency and the B2B agency in the United States. Previously, she worked on the supplier diversity team at Google. Basulto earned a BA in political science and government. She's a native New Yorker and lives with her husband, daughter, and 3 dogs, and she's joining us tonight from Barcelona. Welcome, Jacqueline. Next, we have TJ Aspen Givens, Columbia College, class of 2019. She's the director of marketing at Great Gray Trust Company, where she champions brand strategy and digital innovation to modernize retirement solutions. She previously worked at Rock Nation Sports on key public relations and sponsorship initiatives for NFL stars, at Horizon Media on major brand campaigns for household names like Geico and Capital One, and at M&T Bank on commercial real estate and insurance marketing. Givens earned a BA in American Studies and Sociology. She serves as the programming co-chair of the Columbia College Women Board of Directors and is a member of WIPN, Columbia Gamma Phi Beta Dallas Alumnae Chapter. Welcome, TJ. And we have Yvoire Whittaker, Columbia Business School class of 2023. She's a brand marketing lead at Nike, where she specializes in creative and influencer strategy and athlete marketing for WNBA MVP Aja Wilson. Previously, Whittaker explored her passion for marketing, retail, and supporting underrepresented women by interning at a skincare startup for women of color, working with Virgil Abloh to develop a mentorship series for Gen Z Ghanaians in Accra, Ghana, and starting a venture fund in Ghana. She has also worked at Deloitte as a human capital strategy consultant. Whittaker earned a BS from Georgetown and an MBA in marketing from Columbia. She was born and raised in Dallas by way of Accra. A big welcome to our alumnae speakers. Let's get started. So it's very exciting to see that we all have marketing in common. And we also have Columbia in common as a shared foundation back before our careers in marketing were launched. So a question to our panelists. What is your favorite memory of your time at Columbia, a place where you enjoyed hanging out, or a place to study, or a favorite class that you took? And I will start with TJ. Can you
Hello.
share with us?
Yes, that sounds fantastic. Thank you all for being here tonight. And we were just so excited to see everyone that registered for our event. We were just absolutely thrilled in the interest. My favorite memory at Columbia was actually right after I turned in my senior thesis. It was just such a special memory between my mom and I. We walked every inch of the campus together for the very first time after we turned in my books back to Butler. Um, and I really reflected on my time, and I thought how lucky and how grateful that I was to be able to have my time at Columbia and truly take not a single second for granted. And my favorite class was Art Hum. I had an incredible professor, Dr. Paige Knox. She actually toured the Kennedys at the Met. So shout out to Paige Knox. She was my favorite 8:30 a.m. class, which I thought would never come out of my mouth. But getting to go see those works of art in person and then discussing them in class and vice versa was just absolutely unreal. So can't thank Columbia enough for the core. Nice to see everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you, TJ. Over to Yvoire.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for having me, and so glad to see everybody here today. I would say my favorite memory on campus was actually when they opened the new business school. So they opened the new business school in my second semester of first year. So I got to experience going to Columbia on main campus, but also on the Manhattanville campus. And it was really, really exciting to see the investment that Columbia has in its MBA students, and just the enrichment and immersion in new classes and a new building. And so it was really exciting to see that, especially knowing that I lived in Harlem as well. And so understanding just different ways we can really integrate with the community and bring the community into the amazing offerings that Columbia has was really a good experience and memory. I would say my favorite class was negotiations. Super, super fun. It's a kind of a way to pretend like you're an actor without, any strings attached. But you get to work with your classmates and really work on different skill sets that really help you in the workplace, from negotiations with your parents on buying a car to negotiations in the workplace, and just different business deals. So really dynamic, versatile class that I really enjoyed.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Yvoire. I went to Columbia Business School a little earlier than you did, so I have not been able to enjoy all the facilities of the new campus location. I'll have to check it out. Thank you. And Jacqueline, share with us your favorite Columbia memory.
Sure. I would say my favorite moments were just when I took a step back and enjoyed the beauty of the campus, remembered the history that existed there, and just felt in the moment and present, which is so hard to do when you're a busy college student and you're stressed and thinking about a million activities. But those were my favorite moments. And an overrated response, but I love the core curriculum. So Lit Hum and Art Hum, those were some of my favorite classes. And I think they have served me so well today because I always have a little bit of knowledge about everything to connect with people on, which I think is important in a multidisciplinary field like marketing.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jacqueline. And I'll add, so some of my favorite moments and memories include sitting on low library steps. I know that's an answer for many, many people. Just soaking in a little bit of sun between classes. I can say I studied a bit on low library steps, but really just enjoyed connecting with classmates, and watching scenery, just loving that it's in New York City, but it's nestled within, such a beautiful environment. Also, for those that may remember, if we go back, I did enjoy time at the Plex. It was let's say, disco tech on campus. It was attached to Carmen Hall. It was in Ferris Booth Hall, which is now transformed. But at the time, it was just a great place to listen to 80s music and let your hair down and try out your dancing shoes. That was fun. And then I would say my favorite class was art humanities. So I'm with you, Jacqueline, on those classics. To be able to go to different museums in New York City just with a notebook and capture, what you see and turn it into an essay, and share reflections was really amazing. And I think it's so special that Columbia has that as part of their curriculum. So thank you all for sharing that. Wonderful. All right. So now let's go into, we have a lot of different questions that have come in from, before this webinar began. So for those that pre-submitted questions, thank you so much. A lot of different categories. So I'm going to go through and would love for our different panelists to answer. We have a lot to go through, so hopefully we can get as much as we can from our amazing panelists. So first, we have many folks who've joined us this evening who are really curious about how each of you first embarked on your marketing career and where did it all begin. And I'll start with Joanna, Columbia class of '09, and she asks, what made you choose a career in marketing when you first graduated from Columbia? Did you intern in marketing while you were at Columbia? And I'd love to start with TJ, if you could share with us.
Sure. I'll talk a little bit more. I know we had some questions from some current students about how to land your first internship and what that process was like. So I'll leave that response for a little bit later. But yes, I did intern while at Columbia. Something that I was really passionate about while being a very active member on campus. I was involved in way too many organizations. I think I was involved in 7, big shocker. But I was lucky enough to be involved in the Columbia Sports Business Club and Columbia Daily Spectator. And while at the Daily Spectator, I got involved in the sports section specifically. So I was able to write articles and bridge my love of statistics and graphic design together, which really brought me an innovative way to delve deeper into marketing. And I'll talk about my first internship in a moment. But as Nancy mentioned in the intro, I did get to intern while at Columbia. I interned 3 different times, and those spanned all different fields. So in the legal world, in the insurance world, both in-house and then at an agency as well, and couldn't recommend that more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, TJ. Over to Yvoire.
Yeah, sure. So, as Nancy mentioned in the beginning, I actually went to undergrad at Georgetown in Washington, D.C., but my answer is pretty general that I feel like can span across, different undergrad universities. So, I was actually a pre-med healthcare major. I did not major in marketing for my undergrad. And so, my internships were in healthcare, whether it was strategy or more related to like actually doing nursing and being in the hospital. But what I will say, similar to TJ, is I joined a lot of groups throughout my time in undergrad. And every time I raised my hand to be the marketing liaison, the marketing rep for different clubs and organizations, whether it was a business organization I joined or the Black Student Alliance, so many different orgs, I always found myself gravitating towards marketing because it was what I was naturally good at and what I craved doing in my spare time because it didn't seem like strenuous work. And so that's actually when I pivoted, what signaled me to what I wanted to pivot in was I found myself, I reflected and realized that I always wanted to do marketing. And I wanted to see how I could take what I was doing on the side and make it my professional career. And so what I would say is really listen to and hone in on what you're doing that brings you joy. That really will speak to you in terms of what is going to fuel you every day for 8 hours a day, and taking that and seeing the different pathways to making that a career.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Yvoire. And Jacqueline, how did you first get into marketing? What made you decide?
Thank you. I love that response, Yvoire. I think similarly, I was on the path to go to law school. That was my initial intention, being a political science major. And I had just too many different interests, and I was unsure about exactly what I wanted to do. And so I had many different types of internships in college, including being potentially a vet. I was an intern at a veterinary hospital. I was a legal intern, etc. And I think what I did it was a mixture of luck, but also just raising my hand every time something interested me. I applied to an internship at Google thinking I wouldn't hear back from them. I got that internship, and that was the first time that I was luckily exposed to the marketing world and the technology that impacts marketing as well. And it was the perfect combination of things that I loved: creativity, analytics, et cetera. And so I would say, if you're an undergrad or even if you're beyond that, it's important to follow those hunches and to take as much time as you can to explore and make sure you're committing to something that you're really going to love.
That's fantastic. And I love, what you, Yvoire, and Jacqueline, Yvoire, and TJ have said about, it's about having passion for something. And Yvoire, you said, doing something that doesn't feel like work and that you're just really excited to do is such an important part of what any of us does. And I just love that you're inspired, and that you're enjoying, your career to date. Yvoire, there's a question from Alicia, Columbia College 25. Shout out to our seniors. Congratulations. And she asks about, some of the ways that you can break into the field right out of undergrad and climbing the ladder of corporate in the marketing industry. Is an MBA necessary or advisable for folks that are landing an entry-level marketing role? Yvoire, you had an internship during your Columbia MBA experience. How did you secure that? How did you eventually go to Nike after Deloitte? So your Nike internship over to Deloitte and back to Nike. And was it hard to make those transitions?
Yeah, so I applied to business school coming out of Deloitte, not because I felt like the only way to pivot into marketing was through an MBA, because I believe that at Deloitte, there's such a wealth of knowledge and so many people within your network who have amazing, amazing, and diverse backgrounds and experiences that you can leverage. However, because I was pre-med, I felt like I didn't have the foundational knowledge of business. And I really, really, even though I wanted to go into marketing, I really wanted to understand business as well and leverage all of the cross-functional aspects that you learn within business to be a better marketer. So when I got to Columbia, I really, really just leveraged our Career Center, which has amazing resources for students that I encourage everyone to use. And I believe Columbia also allows, I'm not sure if it's just the business school, but allows us to use the Career Center even beyond after we've graduated, which I think is an amazing resource because it really is that community that you can lean on and help. So Nike was recruiting at Columbia Business School for their Marketing Vanguard program internship.
Mm-hmm.
Is a very um, extreme, intimidating and long process that can take months to complete. But I got the interview, I got the offer, went over to Portland, was in Portland for 8 weeks in marketing. And then what happens is there are about 8 interns that go from all over the US, and then 5 people within the internship get the offer. And so I would say some of the skill sets in that time is, networking with people, really communicating what you want, what you're trying to get out of it, and meeting as many people as you can so that people can see your work, they can speak to your personality, who you are. So when it comes to making a decision in a room that you're not in, so many people can vouch for you, say they've met you, speak to the work that you've done and your character and who you are. And I'm here today. I got the return offer before going into my second year. So second year was really a breeze. And so what I learned throughout the process is, you hear this a lot, but it really is who you know, and really making meaningful connections and relationships, and making sure to be consistent with those relationships to help you get to different opportunities.
And Yvoire, that's fantastic. It sounds like you've been able to, you had your internship, you went to Deloitte and built additional experience and skill set, then went back to get your MBA for, incremental, knowledge and skills and just content. But really, one of the things that you've done so well is networking. And I think that whether we're going into marketing or any other field, sounds like networking was a really important part of your being able to land some of those roles and also keep those relationships going. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to come back to networking if we have time later in this session. So thank you for that. So I will move on to, actually, we can talk about networking now, TJ, if you'd like. There is a question from Claire, a current student, Columbia College, class of 27. And she asked if we don't have any experience in marketing and we're not majoring in business, how hard is it to land an internship? Can you speak to the role of networking? What are your thoughts there?
Completely agree with Yvoire. Almost on every front, the Center for Career Education was absolutely pivotal in my career. So I actually, as a part of the Columbia Sports Business Club, I was able to moderate a panel for women and men interested in sports marketing. On that panel was the director of branding and strategy at Rock Nation Sports. So after the panel was over, I was able to stay behind, and all of their internship positions were taken for that summer. They take 7 undergrad interns every year. And I told him, just give me a shot, let me come in for an interview, and I would love to impress you all with everything that I could do from a graphic design and perspective. And he said, okay, be there on Monday and, bring some of your portfolio of your work from the Columbia Daily Spectator and everything that you told me, and I'll see what I can do. So I kept in touch with him, and I went on Monday and I got the internship. So I focused on building out decks for Rock Nation and started in branding and strategy. And then, like everyone else on the call, it seems as though I was also interested in the legal world. So I had really considered a career going to law school. And I met this woman named Kim Miali, who was absolutely pivotal in my career. She's been the best person to draft football players into the NFL draft, the highest of any female that has ever done, number 3 at Saquon Barkley. And she has been just a huge advocate in my entire career. I was the only undergraduate intern that she had ever had, and I got to work with incredible athletes on their branding campaigns, Saquon Barkley, Juju Smith-Schuster, et cetera, and actually got to be sitting in the room with her, to your point, Yvoire, about negotiation and the power of that and what that means from a personal perspective and from a business perspective, watching her negotiate contracts with some of the world's biggest names in sports was incredible. So I got to bridge everything that I loved, everything that everyone else always told me, hey, you're really great at this, or let's tap you for that PR panel. I got to actually have that. And then similarly, after all of my internships, after Horizon Media, then I went to M&T Bank, who was also recruiting on campus for undergrads to be in their management development program. So both of my most successful internships and then subsequently my career, even till today, was from the Center for Career Education. And I got to go, to your point in your question, Claire, about if you've had prior business experience or not, landing an internship or a job in the marketing world, this management development program, and similarly to the program that Yvoire talked about, I was immersed in how a bank operated from the ground up. I got to go 1 week out of every month to go to Buffalo at the headquarters of M&T Bank. And I was able to see how a bank operated from a branch level, from a corporate perspective, from a sponsorships perspective with their Bills, Jets, and Ravens partnerships. So that's why I was really interested in going to M&T Bank. So you can find a place that meets all of your seemingly disparate interests and branches all of those things all together, and then learn how a bank operates from the corporate level to the contact center to every single person and the pivotal role that each person plays. So I would say, all in all, in summary, I've always said yes to opportunities similar to what Jackie mentioned at the very beginning of the call. I was tapped as the person at M&T to brand pre and post transactions. So that's when I transitioned over to the M&T Insurance Agency, who was eventually purchased by Gallagher. And I was able to then spin off our brand at M&T Bank into Great Gray Trust Company and build that brand from the ground up when we were purchased. So that's been incredible to get to watch and create a brand from the ground up. So all of that to say, all of your interests that you think might be disparate, you're going to see the fruits of your labor pay off in the long run. Anywhere that you end up, you're going to be tapped for opportunities. And it's just all about saying yes and being in those rooms and being able to have someone that's going to champion your career. Not on your behalf, but you have to continue cultivating that relationship and staying in touch with those individuals.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you. I'm hearing walk into a room, go up to someone, that is has an opportunity and give me a shot. That is very powerful. Give me a shot. Let me show you what's possible and the power of
Exactly.
networking and keeping those connections and relationships. And speaking of being bold and, taking that shot, I'm going to turn it over to Jacqueline. You founded your agency, SeedX. You're also its CEO. And many people are wondering what inspired you to launch this agency from the ground up. What did you see in the market that was yet, untapped and unfulfilled?
Starting a business is really difficult, so it takes a uniquely crazy person to start one. But I guess when I was at Google, I saw that a lot of the agency partners that were working with the the marketing teams at Google, and also because I worked in supplier diversity, I was working with small businesses that worked with agencies as well. So I was able to get a really good understanding of what existed already in on the market in terms of marketing partnerships with agencies. And I saw that there was a huge gap in terms of um, putting all of the pieces of marketing together. So there are agencies that create websites, there are agencies that know search engine optimization, that know advertising, et cetera. But now more than ever, and even then about 7 or 8 years ago, we need to be able to understand how all of those pieces go together to create a really great marketing strategy. And so my bold endeavor was to create a business that had knowledge of all of the pieces of marketing and technology and could create an end-to-end strategy that gave businesses insight into their customers or their clients' experiences with their companies across platforms. So from an email to a website to the way that you find an ad, how are these things impacting the way that people are engaging with your company? So that was the basis for the company, and little by little, we've come to get to that big picture.
That is amazing, really amazing, Jacqueline. And it's true, there are so many businesses, as you're starting out, as you're growing quickly, you may not have a full, team in-house. And it's, where do you go? There's so many experts in so many different parts of, digital marketing and advertising. There's social platforms. How can you do well on e-commerce? And how do you pull that all together? So it's definitely such a need to be able to bring it all together and have an integrated view for your clients and partners. And it's amazing. And thank you for thank you for launching that for all those businesses that are going to need an integrated level of service, and they don't have that yet for themselves, and they want a partner that can really help them in every way. So thank you so much for that. All right, so moving on, there are a lot of questions that have come in about roles and responsibilities within marketing. Marketing captures so many different elements of business, from advertising to thinking about how certain brands become iconic. How do you present a service or technology to those that are needing a smart solution? So I'm really curious, what do each of your roles in marketing look like, and what are you responsible for on an everyday basis? And I'd love to start with Yvoire.
Yeah, so I have a very unique role at Nike where I kind of sit across both brand management, digital, social, retail. So all of the different facets that make up marketing at Nike, which I believe is really interesting because you can be the quarterback, but then you also have to have knowledge into the functional expertise as well, so that you can really create a well-rounded brand plan for your consumers. And so what we really focus on at Nike is two things: either selling a product or making our consumers feel something through our campaigns. I'm sure most of you know that Nike is very well known for evoking emotion through its TV ads. You might see on, on a Super Bowl commercial, which you will see one next week, or uh,
Oh,
YouTube or social media these days. And so it's really, really about being close to the consumer, knowing your consumer, doing the right and appropriate consumer insights to inform your campaigns and your strategies. I will say what makes Nike so challenging is that it is a really layered and matrix organization that you have to understand to navigate in order to have influence. And one of the biggest things that a lot of my mentors encourage me to do is develop the skill set and the muscle of really having influence, because you need to be able to take and your partners and leadership along your vision and buy into that vision to make sure what you really believe in, what the consumer wants, not what the brand wants, is being delivered across, different marketplaces, whether that's across the world or within, the geography that you're working in. So Nike is really, really more than just selling a product, but it's making our consumers fall in love with the brand and authenticate the brand through ways that we feel like resonate with our consumer best.
that's wonderful. And I'll ask, what's the most fun part of your job, Yvoire, and what's the hardest?
I would say the funnest part is when we get to go on site for activations that you have worked several months to make it come to life. So, one of the funnest moments that I had was going to New York Fashion Week last year. We worked really hard with creators and influencers and different partners and organizations to really make that come to life in New York City. And it's just so exciting feeling the energy and feeling the excitement and seeing how our consumers are reacting to our clothes or shoes, and even just the statement that we're putting out with what we're doing within the city, regardless of the apparel or the footwear.
Hmm.
It's really exciting. And I would also say, like, being able to have that close connection to the consumer, like just talking to someone on the street and hearing what they think, whether it's about a competitor or about us. Able to like take that and bring it back and realize that that is the most valuable thing you can really do at work, and being able to just like talk to real people to make such a make a difference in such a big brand.
That's wonderful. And the hardest part of your job?
The Matrix. It is really, really hard to navigate. You have to have a meeting before the meeting, get people on board. You have to really know who's who does what, um,
Yeah.
when to bring people in, when not to bring people in, managing expectations. There are so many people involved in one project, because one person at Nike might do, or one person at another job might do the same thing that 10 people do at Nike. So it's really, really big, and you focus on something so specific sometimes. Um,
Hmm.
but so many other people have their own niches. You have to bring them all in to create one cohesive plan to make it come to life.
Yeah, that is, it can be complex. It sounds like you've navigated very, very well. I feel like we need a separate session on networking, navigating the corporate world or the professional world. So, Ivoire, TJ, and Jacqueline, we may have to do an offshoot of this and do another 2.0. Thank you for that. And if you need anyone to go with you, Ivoire, to Fashion Week, don't forget your friendly panelist and moderator tonight.
Well, it's
Over
happening
to
this week now, so which is why I'm in New York.
Wonderful. Well, we are happy to be your arm in arm partners if you need anybody. Um, Over to Jacqueline. Can you tell us What's your everyday, role look like? What are the things you have to pivot from one thing to another? And what's the most fun part of your job and what is the hardest?
Sure. First of all, I want to say, Yvoire, I was excited that you were on the panel because Nike, in my opinion, has the best brand marketing. It always makes me stop and feel something. So, um, yeah. And I think my my day or my challenges are almost completely opposite to yours. Because I'm a business owner and our team is smaller. We're about 50 people. I wear a lot of hats. So my day can be really different. I can be working on bookkeeping or hiring or just trying to get a project done. But on most days, my main role within the company is helping to onboard new clients. So typically, I am onboarding a new company that we're working with. Learning their business is really important. So I learn what are your products, who are your customers, what kind of margins do you have, really, really specific analytics, looking at their marketing history, what they want their consumers to feel about their brand, what their revenue goals are, understanding the long-term kind of goals of what we should be doing as their marketing partner, and then helping to put together a solution and actionable strategy that my team can then help implement alongside them. So I always say my job kind of feels like being a marketing doctor or a business doctor, where I talk to a business team, I hear everyone's goals, I help them come to some kind of conclusion together, and then we create a plan so that we can actually make those goals happen. So that's really complicated and fun. Um, in terms of the best thing about my job, I would say it's again really interesting as a business owner. And I wasn't expecting this because I think you think about yourself and your own growth, but as a business owner, it's really incredible to see the people that you've worked with and that you've hired become really great and step into their own as leaders and thinkers. So that's my favorite thing when I'm stressed out. I think, well, I'm so happy to be working with these people that I've had the ability to kind of surround myself with. And then the hardest thing is having too much responsibility. So almost the same thing, right? What's great about it is that I have all of these people that I get to help and work with. But the difficult thing is when something goes wrong as a business owner, you're responsible for all of those people, making sure that they're taken care of, that their paychecks go through, that the projects are working well. So it can be overwhelming at difficult times, but anything worth doing is difficult, I think.
I'm gonna write that down. Absolutely. And as you said, when you hit a bump in the road, right, in anything that we're doing, it may not be your fault, but it becomes your responsibility, how to solve a challenge for someone on your team or something that comes up unexpectedly from your clients. It is you that is, leading the way to help solve it and have the right people around you to get over that bump. So completely agree. Thank you for that. All right, over to TJ. What does your role look like? You have such a different business model at Great Trust. So would love to hear, what does your day look like and what's the most fun part of your job and what's tough?
Sure. So a lot of my day is surrounding, so I run all of our campaigns at Great Gray. So multi-touch, email drip campaigns or social media campaigns or paid advertising and kind of those strategies that Jackie was talking about of being the doctor to all those different brands that she works with. That's kind of my role, but integrated in-house and obviously leaning on external partners as well. We do have a branding agency, for example, that we did work with to come up with this cornerstone of grow confidently to take a page out of Nike's book and actually make people feel something when they see our branding or when they see what we're talking about. We want not only for investors to grow confidently, but also our retirement plan advisors and their practices, and from a B2B perspective. So Grow Confidently was the perfect segue into everything that we do on a day-to-day basis and how we want them to grow. Our conference branding is something else that I really enjoy doing. The experiential things that happen at a conference, whether it's a golf simulator or a water bottle activation or something like that, how your brand actually is perceived and what's on brand versus what's completely off brand. How can you, see Nike and even understand without ever seeing the Nike swoosh that was a Nike ad? Trying to get to that point with our branding. And then the thought leadership, curation, content strategy. A lot of plan advisors either don't know what collective investment trusts are or they think that they do. And we need to revise a lot of those misconceptions that are seen in the marketplace between collective investment trusts and mutual funds. So a lot of that is just basic 101 thought leadership, trying to crank it out in as many different ways as possible. Someone has to see something 7 times before they actually begin to understand it. So how can we touch them through email, through social, through a sales team email? How can we do that in a multiplicity of different ways? At a conference, can they experience our brand firsthand, one-on-one? And then PR, so retirement legislation efforts is something that is very important to our brand right now, because CITs could be accepted into 403B plans in the coming future, which would open up the possibilities of collective investment trusts to achieve retirement parity for 403B plan participants. So that's super important to us, and working with our team to do media training and allow them to talk on this topic is super important with a wide variety of channels. So have my hand in quite a few different things in marketing communications, but really enjoy it and love being in-house to be able to have that one-on-one connection with a brand and see it kind of from the ground up. Most fun thing, seeing our brand come to life for the very first time at a conference. So every year we go to this conference called the National Association of Plan Advisors, which is our primary audience. There's about 2,500 plan advisors on site. So it's our big shebang every year in April, and getting to see Great Trust actually in the flesh from a booth that I helped to design and create for the very first time, and actually see people kind of flow through the space was really rewarding. And then the hardest is just prioritization and full kind of end-to-end project management. How can you do that best from a software perspective? What software do we choose and why? Because we have that startup mentality and an entrepreneurial spirit, even coming out of the bank. So I came from about a 200-person marketing department to now there's 3 of us running this business line. So that shift has been really rewarding to see, and I've definitely learned a lot along the way. And Nancy, I would love to follow up with to you. You had a very non-traditional entry into the world of marketing after your Columbia College experience. And I would love to know, how did you make your way into working on different brands?
Thanks, TJ. I definitely zigzagged. Coming out of Columbia College, I was headed for law school, and a shout out to all of my CC 90 and other CC folks who went off to law school and have become extremely successful. I was headed for law school straight out of Columbia. I had a political science, liberal arts degree, and was really excited. And the one thing that kept pulling at me, through my years in college, was really that my father was an entrepreneur. He had a small business, and I felt the summers that I worked with him, it's something pulled at me. Wow, the world of business, I felt was, pulling at my shoulder. Working with him, understanding, learning accounting when I was in high school, and thinking about how to get new customers and how to, what does business development look like? How are you going to get new clients and new accounts? And the days where he might have lost a customer, and, it was a hard day. And I would just watch how he managed clients, managed his business, grew revenue. And I was really, really intrigued by that. I was also have been always curious about, why do people love certain brands and maybe not like others as much? And so I really wanted to learn about, brand and brand marketing, And so I went to Columbia Business School after working in a small advertising agency for about a year, and went back to school to get some learnings. I took corporate finance, I took statistics, decision making modeling, and other econ classes that I hadn't had any exposure to. And coming out of there, similar Yvoire to you, I had the opportunity to join. They recruited on campus, and I had an opportunity to join a big global toothpaste company, Colgate. Worked there for many years, worked on different brands and marketing. I went international and did international business in 2 different continents, and then came back and was fortunate to work on 2 different businesses as CEO. Tom's of Maine, the naturals company owned by Colgate, and then went over to be CEO of Tate's Bake Shop, the thin and crispy, delicious chocolate chip cookie home of the delicious chocolate chip cookie. Was an absolutely delicious step in my career. And it just was, there was something about my father's business, something about working side by side, being really curious about people, their behavior, what makes them buy certain things, and a sense of, having a streak of creativity. I was going to go to fashion school. I did not. And just a combination of, this artistic streak, creativity, business, and brands, and I was really excited. So really, that's how I went from Columbia College to discovering some of what I was curious about, and then that became slowly over time my career path.
Well, your packaging may as well be a work of art in and of itself. So, meaning on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. No, it's been amazing. And, as I listen to you, TJ, Yvoire, and Jacqueline, one thing that's coming to mind is you talk about that which you love about your work and that which can be sometimes hard is actually people, right? Working with your team, working with your clients, working with new clients, working with others on your projects. At the end of the day, what is really inspiring and I think makes us love what we do are the people around us. And I think what makes it hard sometimes are having to navigate, right? Tough discussions, negotiation, how you influence others. Those moments can be hard, whether you're in marketing or not. And I think the lessons I'm uh, gaining from the 3 of you is really people, people, people. So appreciate that. All right, so we are going to zoom off now into looking at different sectors of marketing. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. There is a question around agency, and I'm going to give this over to Jacqueline. There's a question from Stephanie, Columbia College class of '88, about hiring staff, and she asks, when does it make sense to hire a marketing firm in relation to the size of your internal staff?
Sure. So this goes back to the complexity of marketing in today's atmosphere, right? And so this is a question I get all of the time from small and mid-sized businesses who are trying to decide, should I hire one person to do all of my marketing? Should I hire 3 more people? Or should I work with an agency? And I think in order to really have a great marketing strategy, you need someone who understands the brand and the business, and you need specialists in different areas of marketing. So even with a simple company, you're probably going to be touching at least a few channels of marketing. That might include your website, email marketing, paid ads, social media, right? And so what I typically advise people is, if you're just kind of getting to that point where you need agency support, to have someone in-house who's awesome and can hold the brand really closely and help kind of guide that strategy, like TJ, and then work with an outside partner that can give you the kind of breadth and diversity of knowledge that you need to make marketing work well. I would say also the reason an agency can be a a good idea is because all of those people in the agency already know how to work together well. And when you hire, let's say you have the funds to hire a 25-person marketing team in-house, you still have to work through all of the challenges that it takes to get that team to be a well-oiled machine. So usually with SeedX, if someone wants to work towards having their own internal marketing team, we'll help support them from that one-person team to maybe 5 people, 10 people, and slowly transition what we're doing to their internal team so that they don't lose efficiency in the process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, Jacqueline, you're right. When I think of startups and, emerging businesses, they don't necessarily have the budgets yet to hire, many internal full-time marketing team members right in the beginning. And I think as you are doing with your agency and your clients, you have a lot of the expertise. You can test and learn with your clients, and make their budgets go really far. And even as a business grows, internal teams don't always have the expertise in all areas of marketing. And as I've worked with agencies on some of the bigger businesses that I've been a part of, that partnership can be very efficient and valuable for internal marketing leaders, CMOs or heads of marketing for different companies. So, thank you for that. I'm going to move over to a question for Yvoire and TJ. Would love to hear, what is your view as to the role of PR and communications within marketing?
Go ahead, Yvoire.
Yeah, sure. So communications is everything, whether it's in a professional sense or a soft skill sense. But I'll start with the soft skill sense. As I mentioned earlier, like marketing can sometimes be so cross-functional where you have to work with so many different functions to really understand what you're selling, whether it's a product or service or just a campaign. At the end of the day, marketers aren't creating the product, they're not creating the service. And so it's really, really important that you're communicating with your partners to understand the reason behind a build or development. An example is I was working on Asia Wilson's shoe launch that unveiled today actually. And I was trying to build a plan to market the shoe, and there were all of these different symbols and artifacts on the shoe, from the colors to so many different things, and without understanding why that was built, why that was put into the shoe, where it was placed, I can't tell a story. And so the soft skill of communicating with people within the organization, outside of the organization, understanding what people love, understanding why people do certain things is really important for you to be informed on how you execute your job. And then in terms of on the professional sense, communication. So when I was at Deloitte, I actually worked on a communications based project. And I had no experience in communications prior to that. As I mentioned before, I was in healthcare, I was pre med. But what I learned on that project, I was on that project for 6 months, was how important attention to detail is. And what I mean by that from a communication standpoint is I really learned that you can't say a word more than 3 times in this, article that you're writing, or it's really important when you're selecting words because the reader might read it differently if you select one word over another word, or even just the phrasing of words. So there are so many technicalities to communications from a standpoint that really can change completely what you're trying to do. And so having a clear vision and understanding the implications of how you're communicating that and pressure testing to make sure that you're communicating in a clear way that resonates with different people of different ages, of different backgrounds within different organizations or industries is really important, because I might understand a word that we use in marketing all of the time, but someone who's an engineer who I'm also maybe trying to appeal to for one reason or the other might use a different word for exactly what I'm trying to say. And so it's really important that you keep an open mind when thinking about incorporating communications within marketing, because it'll make your marketing so much more effective and impactful with several different consumers, and not tunnel visions as to how you think about how you execute.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yvoire, hearing, clarity, making sure that something resonates, and storytelling. We can call it PR or communications, but really, pulling onto that word that you talked about, storytelling, which is really, humanizing and connection. The Jacqueline talked about Nike and Nike branding and Nike communication, pulling at the heart. That's about storytelling and connection. So really love that. Thank you. TJ, do you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
just want to add a little bit to that, to the storytelling portion. Something that's been really effective for us is a video first approach, and I know we hear that all the time, but something that we're about to roll out is video centric approach to email marketing with our sales team. So each sales team member created their own video, kind of telling their story, how they got into sales, why retirement planning is important to them, even sharing personal stories from maybe when their parents retired or from when their grandparents retired and what happened. So avoiding that typical image that we think of when we think about retirement of two older people in a beach chair. The retirement process happens. It starts in college. Like, it starts when you're picking your first role. It starts when you're thinking about your 401k for the first time. It doesn't start when you're on that beach. Everything leading up to the beach is how you're getting there. So we've been really tackling that from a video first approach. And then I just love this quote about listening with curiosity to talk about communication. So it's from Roy T. Bennett. I just wanted to share it with everyone. Listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, act with integrity. The greatest problem with any communication is that we don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. When we listen with curiosity, we don't listen with any intent to reply, we just listen for what's behind the words. So if we just all keep that in mind, kind of even as we're talking about the people that we work with or external stakeholders, and avoid the need to reply, but truly listen and be present in the moment. Don't be on your phone when you're in an agency meeting, or don't be trying to email on the side of a call. Really be present in that moment. I think we would all be better listeners, and then therefore better communicators.
That is fantastic. I want to just sit for a moment, because I'm just listening to you. I listened to that entire quote, and it's really powerful, TJ, just to listen and have the connection and digest what is being said, and so that you can really take full advantage of the advice. It's fantastic. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to, there's a couple of questions that have come in. This is a great question related to new technologies, including AI. There's questions about ChatGPT, and also best practices in staying on top of trends. So this is a great question. I'm going to go to Erica, Columbia College class of '88, who asked, what are the best practices in the age of AI? And I'll add to that, like, how is ChatGPT and AI in general going to affect brands and businesses going forward? And how is that going to impact the world of marketing? I'd love to go to Jacqueline.
Sure. I think as marketers and professionals, the best thing that we can do is constantly be educating ourselves about technology. And that's been our approach at SeedX, is making sure that we know how to use and leverage these tools, because the way that we can, stay on the cutting edge is to understand how they can amplify our performance, rather than fearing that they're going to replace certain functions. Us as humans, we should see these things as tools for us to better storytell, to take away tasks that would have taken us a longer time to do. But I think that the major way that it's really shaping how we think about the day-to-day is that education, where we have to really understand the capabilities as they change on a day-to-day basis. And so that's what I would stress to brands and to marketers alike, to not fear and to make sure that you remain as educated as possible so that you can stay ahead of it and see it as a tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And anyone would like to add to that?
I love, so we use Copilot because we're a Microsoft organization. So I love using Copilot. I've learned a lot about it just even in the past 6 months, just as much as it's grown kind of alongside us. So even just taking the first pass at, a social drip campaign, I can pull from, an email series that I've created and then pull the first draft of those social posts in our voice and tone because we've trained it that way, pulling from an email drip campaign. And it just takes so much work off, a thinly stretched team of 3 to be able to have that first draft from Copilot. Another thing that I love using it for is it's integrated with our emails. So we're able to say, create me a summary of all of my top accomplishments and action items for the next week. And then I'm able to have that summary on Friday to inform my subsequent week and be able to meet with my manager on that and then be able to showcase that to my team as well. Just to know where we stand and what's next. So that's been really impactful for me using Copilot.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds.
Sorry, Nancy.
Go ahead, Yvoire.
No, I would echo that being able to gather insights that would take you like over an hour to look into yourself is such a powerful tool because then we can act faster. So again, it's like these tools are here to make us even more efficient, or at least that's how I see it. And I think those were some great examples of how I also like to use Chat GPT and the other technologies that are popping up.
That's fantastic. And Yvoire, I don't want to jump ahead of you. Would you like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize something TJ mentioned that I really didn't want to go unnoticed, but TJ mentioned in her response that she trained it that way. And I think it's really important that we understand that AI, as Jacqueline mentioned, is here to help us, and we should stay educated on this innovation that keeps popping up, but also educating to the point where we can really interact with the AI and train it in a way that is even more useful and more helpful to us and tailored to our needs. It's kind of like the algorithm on TikTok. The more you use TikTok, the more the algorithm is tailored to what you like. Um,
Mhm.
so it goes the same with other AI applications such as ChatGPT, such as Claude, such as all of the other things. The more you use it, the more you talk to it and add specificity to the AI will help you get a sharper solution to what you're looking for when using the AI.
Right. Yeah, something that really helped us. Obviously, at your first pass of showcasing a social post series or something, it'll be way off from your brand voice and tone. So if you put in, for example, 5 of your latest blog posts, it starts to begin to learn and begin to talk like you can, which is really useful. I'm on the very early stages of it, but I'm excited to learn more. I'm sure Jackie and Yvoire know much more than me, but just been useful kind of on a day-to-day basis, learning and growing with it.
And I think it's, just connecting to everything that you have said, all 3 of you have said is, it's how do you train and educate, the user of AI, right? Making sure that they understand, what are the ways that it can help, an individual be more efficient, to find maybe there's the early, just the beginnings of something, of a thought, just to get the thought out, that initial, we used to call it pen on paper. I still use pen and paper, but having that first, like, if you have that roadblock, what is that? How do you get that first few words or phrases out? And that can be really helpful. I also love, hearing that this can be more. This can also help you be efficient so that you have more time, right? So, still learning how to use read.ai, but instead of having minutes and hours to recap the meeting that I might have been in 10 years ago. And then I have to type it up. And then I hope that it is spell checked. And I want to make sure that I captured everything. So you go back through the notebook before I print it out and give everybody a copy of the memo of the minutes of the meeting from last week. This is saving time. Now we're going to be able to use the time, Jacqueline, whether it be more time for your clients and with your team to come up with solutions for your clients. TJ and Yvoire, having more time where you're thinking about the storytelling and the listening, this is going to be really helpful. But educating the user on when and how to use some of these new technologies and enabling us all to have more time for people, our teams, our consumers, our clients is, I think, just going to be an amazing, it will continue to provide great benefits for us all. So thank you for that. All right, I am going to roll down. We have some wonderful, wonderful questions. And I know we're not going to be able to capture all of them. I'm going to go to this one, quick round for our panelists. This is from Christina, another senior, Columbia class of 2025. Congrats, Christina. She asks, well, how do you stay up to date with trends and stay ahead of trends? Are there tips and tricks? Are there ways that you think about just keeping up with, fast-moving technologies, competitive trends, Yvoire, other brands? Of course, there are not other brands than Nike, but if there might be, how do you keep up with what's happening in the industry? Love to hear from all of you.
Yeah, I can jump right in. So for me, my biggest friend is social media. And I know right now there's a trend on social media where TikTokers go on TikTok and say like, here's the latest on what's been happening in the sports industry in the last 48 hours, and they recap it in 2 minutes. And that can be my best friend because when I only have 2 minutes and I don't have 15 or 20 to read an entire article from a sports business journal or what have you, those are really helpful to help me understand the sound bites, but then also looking through the comments, seeing how people are reacting. In addition, staying on the topic of social media, like if something launches, if a brand does something, I can keep up to date as it's in. But just really, really actually digging through those comments and seeing what people are saying because people are unfiltered in those comments. And they're real. They're real comments, whether good or bad. It's not something that was curated or crafted for a specific medium. Like people's first thoughts and reactions to a new product, a new service, a campaign, what they're seeing. And so those are really valuable, especially because I'm in Portland. We're not necessarily in a key city where we're hearing where trends are emerging, such as New York or LA or so many other cities. And so it's important that you stay up to date there. But outside of social media, I also subscribe to different, newsletters such as Adweek and other marketing newsletters that I think do a really good job, whether it's daily or weekly, sending newsletters to your inbox. And I carve out time every single day, whether I'm on the train or during my lunch break to read what's happening in the marketing world, and use that as insights to then bring it into my work, as relevant, of course, just to kind of stay updated. But there's so many resources, you can really get overwhelmed. So how I've narrowed it down is talking to friends, talking to mentors, advisors who I really admire, and asking like what their favorite source of insights and trends are to stay up to date so that they can do their job effectively. So really looking at leaders, and then I kind of filter myself based off of what works for me, how I like the tone of different messages, and how I like to engage with consumers.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love the back to your point before about that relationship building and the mentors and networking, that you can go back to that network, throughout your career, whether it be informally or getting their opinion on what's happening in the industry, brands they love, campaigns you might be testing. What a great source of, feedback. And, you're definitely going to get authentic responses, and such an amazing source of getting feedback and external industry and advice. So thank you for that. Jacqueline and TJ, would you like to add to that?
Sure, I'll just add quickly. One of the most difficult parts of the marketing industry is that it's changing every single day, especially since we rely so much on technology like Meta's algorithm, Google's algorithm. They change constantly. And so it's not as easy sometimes as finding a course because the course can't be written fast enough to keep up with how things are changing. So I would say, much like Yvoire, I am constantly looking for resources on YouTube, newsletters, Reddit, and it's just about figuring out what's quality and being able to understand that. But it's definitely a dynamic learning experience. Yeah, I'll pass it off to TJ.
Yeah, perfect. Typically stay up to date. I'd first like to start with everyone should read right now. Go home if you haven't read it. Start with Why by Simon Sinek, and I think that's an incredible book that really outlines how we should all start because we created this and we were in this industry because we loved it from the very beginning, and we wanted to be in it, and so that's our why. And our why can change over time. We can obviously morph and go into different sectors and industries, such as Nancy has, for example, throughout her career. But I love reading that book, even though it is from 2009. I love going back to it to regenerate. Why that I'm in this industry, why that I love it, and then we can create all of our projects from that why. But how I really like to stay up to date, similar to Yvoire, is about social media. So I love doing social listening exercises from what our competitors are saying, what our engagement rate looks like in comparison to our competitors. We typically like to stay about 2 to 3% higher than our competitors in social on engagement because we're really ahead of the curve there on social media from a lot of our competitors. So that's what we kind of set as our benchmark and our goal month over month to be able to have that. And I always listen into those keywords to make sure to see what people are talking about, to see what questions are being asked, so that then we are at the forefront of that content that's being produced. So that's how I would say it's the fastest moving way to stay ahead. And then I also was really fascinated by digital marketing and obviously everything that goes into that from a keyword perspective, from SEO perspective. So during COVID, to plug a class at the business school that you can take online. It's a digital marketing continuing education course, and I absolutely loved it. I believe it was about an 8 to 12-week course that I took during COVID. That's available to anyone that would like to enroll in it, and it's just fantastic and keeps you really ahead of the trends. And they keep updating it, year over year with the latest in AI, and couldn't recommend that course more.
That is fantastic, TJ. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. I think just adding to that, an authentic source for information, for inspiration are a lot of influencers that are out there. So whether it be, in the health and wellness space, it could be something about parenthood. It could be about, different, you may want to look at, things related to your career. I try to look for influencers that I admire and follow them, as well as things they're interested in. That's a really helpful way to stay on top of things. If War, to your point, if they have a blog and they can publish some advice and links to articles I can read later, I think that that's been a really helpful way to stay on top of things when none of us have very much time, which is great. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go to a question for our panelists from a fellow classmate and friend, Margaret R., Columbia College class of 1990. She asks, often what seems like a disappointment or failure can end up being a great launch pad for something even better or an important lesson. Have you had this experience, and can you all speak to it? I'd love for Yvoire if you wanted to jump in.
Jacqueline, you can go ahead. I see ready.
I can start. As a business owner, failure is absolutely inevitable, just in terms of losing a client for whatever reason, not having as great of a month as you wanted to. And so I'm of the belief that failure is part of growth. And if you're not constantly failing, you're not moving forward. So I think I stand here as a success in business or in marketing because I failed so much, and people don't see the failure, they only see the success, right? But there's been so much failure in my path to get to where I am now, and I hope in the future too. I hope it's not that bad, but so that I continue to learn. But I think in order to grow, in order to learn, and to learn difficult things like how to run a business and how to align a marketing strategy with the business in an impactful way, you have to make mistakes, you have to fail, you have to have a campaign go wrong so that you understand what is right and you learn from it for the future. So not a very specific answer, but I think, if you're failing and you're learning from it, then you're going in the right direction.
I was going to mention, I kind of see failure as the universe shutting a door or the universe saying no. And going to the universal phrase that we've all probably heard of is one door closes, another door open. And I think a lot back to when I was pre-med and I technically quit, but for me, I saw it as a failure that I didn't want to pursue this and I had been pursuing it for so long. I'm sure, the other panelists who are pre-law might feel the same way. Like you have this come to Jesus moment with yourself where it's just like what am I going to do next? I thought I was going to do this my whole life and things are changing and your path is changing and for so long I looked at it as a failure, but it was truly because I was unhappy and I wasn't going through life with joy in that career path. And so, as Jacqueline mentioned, failure is always a learning. And one thing I always try to teach myself is to fail fast. Give yourself 24 hours. You don't want to um, bog down on the failure for too long because that can hold you back as well. But using it as a source of inspiration and motivation to figure out how to pivot, how to do the next thing, how to try again, maybe. And so that you keep moving forward to reach that ultimate success that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could not agree more. Failure is just a springboard for, what's next on your path. And we do this co-op program. And so we had a person that really stood out from the very beginning, to Jackie's point about, hiring kind of being under your purview, being able to be a part of the interview process and see someone from beginning to end and how that their trajectory has gone. We really wanted this one individual, and they chose to go freelance on their own. And so in the moment, I viewed that as a failure because we were really campaigning for him to join our team and how incredible Great Great was and what that was going to do for his career. But we all jumped in and learned video editing and continued to grow our muscle in that regard and got super crisp on our briefs and exactly what we wanted to do. And now work with an incredible freelancer as well in design that kind of fulfilled all of those needs of that individual that we had identified, but got to actually grow ourselves in the process. So I think a lot of that, you learn a lot about yourself, and then you're able to grow as an individual through failure.
Thank you. That is keeping that all in mind. Fail fast, and that can lead to personal and professional growth. Couldn't agree more. There was a time where I was exploring new opportunities after being at one company for several decades. And one of the first opportunities that was, coming my way, I was really interested in. I spent a lot of time researching that company, and I focused so much on that one company that when that role didn't pan out, or as I saw that I might not necessarily get that role, I said, oh my goodness, I might not get this role. And I need to widen and I was, there was a little bit of panic, and I said, okay, I think I need to widen my scope of networking, do more research on, marketing careers or other across different industries, and think about my network and see how I can meet others, and to all of your points of that relationship building and being able to influence, because the first thing that comes along may not work out, and you need to have options, and you need to to be flexible and not um, count on one thing being everything. So really appreciate that. All right. Last, we are coming to time. So, Jacqueline, TJ, and Yvoire would love to get, your last words of advice for all of our attendees, and so appreciate that you've been able to join us, and for all of the folks, alums and students and friends who have joined us. What quick piece of advice would you like to leave for our attendees?
Use this as an opportunity. Reach out to us. We're all open to have coffee, have a virtual meeting, talk about your career goals and where you want to go in life. So kind of take this as a way to be able to network with, some of the best in the business on this call. I mean, we have the ex-CEO of Tate's Bake Shop here, and she's willing and able to be a springboard for your career and be a champion in your success. So this Columbia network that you have is one that's unparalleled. And I just want to leave that offer open to anyone. If you ever want to reach out or talk about anything, or you're unsure of how to pivot from brand marketing into PR, or whatever your next career step is, or you're a current student at Columbia, I'm always willing and open to help wherever that you'd like to go. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Jacqueline, closing words of advice.
There's so much. I would say something we didn't get into as much is yourself as a brand beyond networking, right? What value do you bring into the world? How can you showcase that as you're networking? Networking really confused me as an undergrad because I didn't understand how to do it. And I think it's just being really aware of what your strengths are, being able to communicate those, being able to be a person of value in other people's lives. And so I think it's important to reflect on that as you're looking for career opportunities. What are my strengths? Where can I grow? And to have a really objective understanding of that as you network and you explore opportunities in the world.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Yvoire?
Yeah, I love that, Jacqueline. Just like knowing yourself, I think that's really, really great. I would say just stay curious about any and everything that interests you or that you don't have an understanding of. I think asking questions and being able to ask people different questions can help you really connect the dots from one conversation to another. And also is a good conversation starter when you are meeting people that can inform and just educate whoever you're talking to. I think that knowledge is a power, and there's never a cap to how much you can know, and it's not something that someone can ever take away from you either. So asking questions, getting more information can only ever help you in your career and also help you, to Jacqueline's point, know yourself, and just like really honing that in to figure out how to navigate yourself and what you want to do.
That is fantastic. And I love the connectivity between, knowing yourself, developing your personal brand. I feel like, again, there's a 3.0 to this. We can do personal branding, know your authentic self, and the world of AI. I think there's another chapter to this, to be continued. But yeah, I think, TJ, to your point, networking, leveraging the Columbia experience and friends of Columbia. If there are folks that might be in your industry, you don't know them, as TJ said, give me a shot, like reach out to folks. Sometimes it's, not a direct connection. It may be someone who recommends you to talk to someone a bit further away from, from who you may know in your closest circle. I think people really enjoy being able to share their experiences. It's great to make new connections. So if there's someone in your industry who, an industry that you're interested in, whether it be marketing or otherwise, look and find, alums that may be in that industry that you can reach out to. I've found the Columbia community to be extremely welcoming, generous with their time, and it goes in a circle. People pay each other back in terms of that time for networking and advice. And yes, please do leverage this network. I think TJ, our calendars might be filling up after this, but we welcome that. And again, leverage your Columbia community and friends of, because it's very powerful. And I think that, people are willing to help if you just ask and say, what's your, give me some advice. I would love your guidance. Let me bounce something off of you. And as you leave one of those conversations, is there someone else that might be, that you'd recommend that I speak to about my interest in this career or that opportunity? So reach out. It's easier than I think all of us might think when we listen to the word networking.
And that goes within your current company as well. I mean,
yes.
Anyone at your current company, if you enjoy what they do and you're just curious or you're interested, and maybe that might be the next step in your career, reach out and they'll be willing to, let you shadow a call and, where could that lead? So I've done that quite a bit, and it teaches you a lot.
Absolutely, TJ. I can't believe it's already time for us to wrap up this session. It's been absolutely amazing. I want to thank you, Jacqueline, TJ, and Yvoire, for this evening's conversation. Really an amazing, series of advice, experiences, how you got into marketing, and what you each do a bit of something different in each of your marketing careers, and how you've been able to build relationships and network and be so successful. So thank you so much for joining us. And a big thank you to all of our alumni, students, and friends in attendance. Please save the date for CCW's annual signature event taking place on campus on April 17th in the evening. We'll be discussing women in leadership with a panel discussion. Also, join us for Columbia College Women's Heritage Chat, a forum for Black and women and allies, next week, Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, moderated by Claire Gibson, Columbia College Class of 2026. Join us for our next CCW Author Talk on March 18th with Rosalind Chow, Columbia College Class of 2002, who will discuss her book, The Doors You Can Open, A New Way to Network, Build Trust, and Use Your Influence to Create a More Inclusive Workplace. You are not going to want to miss these events. And if you wish to stay involved or get involved with the college community, please reach out to us at ccwomen@columbia.edu. That's ccwomen@columbia.edu. Thank you for spending a part of your evening with us, and have a good night.